podcast mentor, Debbie Doshinger. I wanted to bring her on because I hear so many people, including myself, say, I want more speaking opportunities. I want to be on more
Mm.
podcasts.
Mm.
I heard someone say recently on a call that it's better to, before you start your own podcast, like really focus on getting on other people's podcasts and other people interviewing you so that you can really get clear on your messaging and what to do. So if that's you and you said back at the beginning of the year, 6 months ago, I want to speak more, I bring you Debbie Doshinger, who has been a radio show host. Debbie, I don't even have your whole bio up here, but it's pretty amazing. You've had a radio show for how long?
15 years.
Before podcasts, people, really, honestly,
Right.
it's like the old dial-up phones before cell phones. um,
BP.
yeah. So, Debbie, I know that you have done, how many interviews do you think that you've actually done in that
Mm.
15 years?
My bio still says that I have done over 1,500 media outlet interviews. I know I've far surpassed it at some point. It's like they get the picture. I didn't need to count anymore, but I have done a lot. And
Yeah.
I sucked in the beginning. I was awful. And even though I had a radio show, I sucked because being on this mic, doing a podcast, that's one thing. It's a whole way of being and doing business as a host. It's a completely different way of being and doing interviews when you're a guest. And so I took it upon myself when I heard myself back and I was mortified and I was like, wow, that's so bad. So I took it upon myself and I deep dived for a couple of years and was like, whatever it takes, I'm going to learn. And I was in the school of podcast life. And when I came out, I started using everything I gathered and seeing results all of a sudden. I mean, I'd heard myself back. I'm like, yes, this is good. And then there were results. Books were sold, workshops were filled, clients came along. And I started showing my clients at the time and saying, listen, I have this technique. It's about how to get interviewed. Would you try it and let me know how it goes? And to a person, I was getting this spectacular feedback. And so this coaching was born about how to help people do this. And a lot of people think I can just do it, but it's about getting results for you and for the host, right? You should be utilizing your time to the greatest effect anytime you're going to put some energy into something. And so you should be knowing what's your next step. And secret, it's not about being salesy.
Oh, right. Of course not. So when you say what you're going to get out, the host is going to get out of it, can you give us an example of that? Like a really good example and then a really bad example? I'm sure you have both.
Absolutely, because there's people out there, there's people listening to us right now, and I hope they'll comment and say something and be honest. They would say, I've been interviewed on radio or podcasts and nothing happens. The needle doesn't move. I don't meet anybody new. I don't get anybody new in my database. None of my books sell. I know people like this, right?
Oh, well, that was me. That was me. Way back when, before you helped me put together my whole media kit, that was totally me. I love talking. I love being interviewed. And I think you interviewed me a couple times on your radio show. And I wasn't thinking of like, what am I going to get out of this? And like, what am I giving? I was just like, oh my God, pay attention to me, which is helpful, not helpful, right? If you're a
Yes.
business owner or if you have a message and a mission to get out into the world, this is a very effective way because people are watching, but they're really listening in this attention poor economy where people don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of bandwidth. They are listening deeply as they're on the go. So how can we make sure that we're giving value, Debbie?
Yeah. Perfect. Because that allows me to answer that first question too, is I mean, you have to keep it simple. That's the first thing. Most people feel they have to give the whole buffet of who they are and what they do, but it's too much for the listener and it's not needed. Simplify, simplify. You have about 3 key points about what you teach. And if you just stick with those, you can have an entire 60-minute conversation very easily and lots of questions. The other thing is, and thank you for using the word value, Siddiqui. That's exactly correct. You want to know that you're not going there and constantly. Let me give you a great example of not value. And it's happened where somebody has a book and they're being interviewed. And the host asks a question, "Oh, so tell me about this technique you have in your book for creating abundance." And the person, not value, would say, "Oh, well, people can get the book because the whole technique is laid out there." Like the worst thing you could do. Why is someone listening to you? You have to trust that actually, when you start giving these pieces away, here's the beauty, people will still go buy your book. And I'll tell you how you know, because you're listening to Siddiqui and I right now, and I guarantee you that you have listened to people being interviewed on podcasts, and you're like, hot dang, I'm going on Amazon right now. Poof, bought the book, I bought the Audible, Kindle, whatever it is. You buy books like this. Content, content, content is king. So you want to keep it simple and at the same time be really authentic and know that you're there to support the host to deliver an amazing show to their listeners.
I love that. I love that. So value. So what do you think the number one thing that people can aim towards getting on podcasts? So there's I'm going to go be on a podcast and I'm going to go have a podcast. So let's just I'm going to have a podcast over here for a moment. Let's put it in the waiting room. So what do you think is realistic for people to expect that they can get out of a podcast if they do it well, if they do it the way that you are teaching?
If you're an author, you will sell books. If you are anybody, here's what's possible. People can contact you to speak at an event. People can ask you to be they can ask you to be on a panel, and they can ask you to collaborate.
Yay.
You
Collaborate,
can
yeah.
also create influencer relationships, because when you connect with a host who's really got it going on in the world and has a powerful platform, there's ways to create relationship. And those relationships can go very, very far. I also want to address, I love that you keep bringing up speaking, because for most of us, there's always going to be that anomaly. But for most of us, when we speak on stage, you're hitting between 20, maybe 500 people. That's pretty big, right? Maybe at a university or something, but let's say 20, 100 people. When you're being interviewed on a podcast, the mean number for every interview is around 10,000. So just imagine in 1 month, if you said, I'm going to be interviewed once a week. Let's just see what happens, how I turn my business around and my visibility. 10,000 people the first week, 10,000 people on a podcast the second week, people you would have never met, who would have never met you and known the incredible work you do out in the world. And at the end of that month, you've just spoken to 40,000 brand new people. And if you know how to align yourself with the right podcasts for your message and for what you do, these are 40,000 engaged people who want what you have. There is probably, outside of Tony Robbins, no speaking engagement you're going to find that will create that. And there's ways, no matter what, to get people into your database that's very free and very simple. So it's just a win, win, win. And what I mentioned earlier, I'll just reiterate other benefits that you can receive: clients, filling workshops. I'm here today to talk about a 5-day challenge I'm doing for podcast interviews. You're helping me, and I'm super grateful as my friend, and you're putting me on Facebook, and who knows who we're going to meet out there is going to say, 5-day challenge, that's great. Price point, doable. And look what I
Right,
can learn.
$19. Yeah, crazy. Can I just talk about that for a second? So, I'm I often get speaking opportunities to come, they just come to me. And then now, because we are still virtual people, I think that the whole world has gotten hip to it's virtual. That's the way I'm going to reach more people. As much as we want to go back to like hugging each other in person, the reality is that the whole world of business has now moved online. And so you're going to get opportunities. You need to be ready for those opportunities. So here's what it looks like when you're not ready. Someone is like, "Hey, I heard about you through so and so. I'd love to have you on my podcast or my summit or I whatever interview. Can you send me your speaker kit?" Oh my God, what's a speaker kit? Oh my God, I haven't had my headshot done in 3 years and I've gained 20 pounds because of COVID. I don't even look the same. Oh my God, my bio is like 5 years old. Oh my God, I don't even know what my speaking topics are. And I don't know what I need to say. And so you just throw it together. And I can tell you that that is an exhausting way to go about it. And Debbie sat me down and she's like, girlfriend, she's like, you need to get a speaker kit together. If you want people to say yes to interviewing you, you need to be a yes first, which is saying, out into whatever you believe in, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm able, I want to get my message out there. I want to make an impact. You have to say yes and get your shiznit together. And that's why I really wanted to bring Debbie on today, because Debbie helped that together, that like see Media One sheet with my photo and all my contact information and my bio and my speaking points and my topics. And I'm not going to lie, it was hard to nut it down because I don't think that way. Debbie's laughing. She's like, yeah, it was a struggle. But now that I have it, as soon as someone asks, I'm ready. And I know I'm ready. And I think that that is a very specific kind of energy in and of yourself to have. And so Debbie's going to spend a week doing like the podcast interview challenge, so that you have your media info ready, which is so key, that you align with the right podcast. Now, could you get on someone's podcast tomorrow? I'm sure you could, but is it the right podcast? Is it that next 10,000 people that need your message? Maybe, maybe not. So I also, I also know that Debbie has people that they're like, I want, and it's like knocking on the door when it's not Halloween and being like, I want candy. And it's like, hey, it's not the right time for that. So we have to, get it together and engage with influencers, but the right influencers, not just anybody. The people that have the audience that's aligned with our impact and our message. And so if you want to be introduced to thousands of new clients, to followers, if you have a book that you want to sell that's just been sitting on Amazon and nobody's been clicking on it, nobody's been paying attention, if you want to increase your email database, which you, by the way, all of these social media platforms are very fickle. They could do an about face. They could go away tomorrow. Do you have people's email so that you can contact them in case you get into social media jail on one of these platforms and your account's locked? Do you have a way to still reach people? So these are all things that Debbie's going to address. And you need to think about this ahead of time, because I can't tell you how many people who have very robust followings on social media, how many people in the last week I've heard have gotten into Facebook jail, Instagram jail, and you have no way to reach people. So if you're going to do this podcast thing, if you're going to build your list, if you're going to get your message out in the world, let's calm the nervous system down and get strategic about it. Debbie, how long do you think it realistically? I know you handheld me. I remember meeting at this great Tex-Mex restaurant in LA and us doing my Media One sheet, which was like, I am so lucky. But how long do you really think it takes people to get what they need together so that they can get on podcasts?
Oh, okay. Good question. As far as the paperwork, Media One sheet you're talking about, the pitch letter, which today is a pitch email, your headshot, It really depends where you're starting from. Let's say somebody doesn't have any of that. So first of all, hire Zadiki. She's a great photographer. You really need a headshot, and I'm so big on this, that looks like you. I don't want to see you, 10 pounds lighter, when you had hair, when you were a redhead, like, because you're going to show up and someone's promoting you, and it's really important you look like the picture, just like in dating, right? So definitely have a great headshot. You'll want one anyway if you're an author. The other thing is you need a pitch email. That is not hard. I've got a template that I give people. So it's really fill in the blanks like Mad Lib. And then the same thing, I've got a template for the Media One sheet. I
Nice.
think, yeah, so it's all very doable. It's plug and play. And then if you've got an assistant, dear God, you just write this. These are the words, and you have somebody who can magnificently put it together and quickly for you. Once that's done, then there's another piece. You mentioned it, and that is finding the right podcast for your message. So you have to know, am I a business person, a money person, a spiritual person? Am I into science? Am I into astronomy? Am I into UFOs, etc.? Right? Just authors' books. There are podcasts. There are over 2 million podcasts today. Visibility is everything, everything. There is a podcast for you, probably 10 or 100. So just find your niche. That's where your people are. And the final piece is you got to know what to do once you've got a microphone there. Because if you did all that right and you got a yes, right? And then you go there and you don't know what you're doing, or you over talk, or you don't know where you're pointing people towards, you don't know strategy, you don't know how to connect with the host or be calm, if you get really nervous. All of these are essential. Radio, drive time, you get 5 minutes, just like TV, 5 minutes max to make an impact. You want to use that time really wisely. Podcasts, you'll get between 15 minutes to an hour. Some shows go over, but about that. And you can make tremendous impact. So, the other thing you could do, and this is just a little something I can give away here, is if you really want to do it, find shows that are in your niche, just start listening to
Mm.
them and paying attention. What are they doing that I really like? What is this guest doing? Or what are they doing that is kind of turning me off? And it's okay to listen to several of them and just start ingesting that so that you know what to replicate once you get there. Oh, yeah, I don't want to do this. This doesn't work. I definitely want to be more like that. So start incorporating those things. But it really is a process. It's everything you talked about putting together, paperwork wise, email wise, picture wise. Then it's about finding the shows and having a list. And then it's about writing to them. And you must do it in a way to get a yes, because we get pitched. There are no words. How many pitches I see. Plus, I'm on a lot of publicists' email lists. So I get those too. You really have to know how to present. For me,
I wish we could do one of those like Saturday Night Live where the
yes,
celebrities are reading like the bad tweets. I wish you could like read us a really bad pitch letter, because I'm sure that they're really, really bad. Just to be clear, there's a really big difference between pitching and just being on a podcast and offering value, which is what we're talking about here. We're talking about, how can I be of value to this person's podcast? How can I be of value to the audience? What can I bring to the table that maybe they haven't heard? Or can I say it in a different way that it really lands for people? So, Debbie, I just want to go back. I hear, as a visibility expert, you and I both hear, I want to start a podcast. So if you could like weigh things out, like time, energy, money, return on investment, and there's a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, it is hard, it is expensive, it takes a lot of time. One, you could do it today. Where is starting a podcast on a scale of 1 to 10?
hard.
Like,
A
give me a
10.
number. Is it a 9? Is it, for me, it would be a 10, but like, what is
Yeah,
it?
it is. It's a 9, it's a 10. And there's something very real called pod fade. And that's
Pod
because
fade.
tons of pod fade, tons of people go rushing out there. Okay, I have to have a webinar. I have to do a workshop. I have to write a book. I have to start doing videos on YouTube. Oh, yeah. And I have to start a podcast. Like they've got this insane entrepreneur list, tick, tick, tick. And it's exhausting and they're not built for most of it. I say only stick with your sweet spot. Where you resonate is where you need to be. Most people are never meant to be a podcast host, but they'll do it anyway. And what happens is they start doing, they go, oh my shizzle, this is a lot of work. Oh my God. If I do guests, oh my God, it's a lot of work. And I have to write up a script and I need music and I need all this really good equipment and I need someone to edit and I need a platform and people fade. They start the show and they go, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. It is hard. I don't recommend it. There are some people built for it. There are very few of us who have been doing it a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen what you go through on the back end with the production. So if starting your own podcast is a 9 or a 10, for some of us, it's a 12. What about being interviewed on podcasts on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy. 1, you could do it tomorrow. Where are we at?
3. I would give that a 3.
3.
You can't do it tomorrow because you need those pieces I talked about, and then you need to know where the shows are. Here's the beautiful thing, and you need to be coached once you're on air. The beautiful thing is, and all my students can testify, gosh, I hope they're watching this because such beautiful people have gone through my classes, and I get to sit back and watch them being interviewed. And it makes me so proud because they do an amazing job. And that's it. Once you've got the system, if you will, down, you've got those pieces of the package, and you know what the heck to do once somebody says you're live or is asking you a question, you're golden. You've got the golden ticket. You know what to do. And then it's about having fun. You go in the next show, every host is different. Every vibe is different. It's amazing to hang out with all these different people and how they have conversation. And yeah, the rest is about having fun and fielding the after results, which should be, if you're doing it correctly, very positive.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing about that? So for those of you out there that struggle with your languaging and how you describe what you do, the value of what you do, one of the things that I've noticed for myself is that when I'm being interviewed, it turns on something in my brain and I have access to this whole other language center because I'm in communication, I'm answering questions. And this is why I would really love for you to focus on getting on podcasts versus starting your own podcast, because when you get a really good interview, the person elicits in you responses that maybe you would have never come to on your own, sitting at your desk trying to write or, write that next newsletter or write that next post. And I have gone back and I've listened to my podcast interviews with Debbie and with some other people. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know where that came from, but that was pure genius. That's why I think this is really important for a lot of us. We need to be asked questions that elicit this part of the way we do things, how we describe things that we don't get to when we're just sitting there by ourselves trying to create. This is a really genius strategy to get clearer and clearer and clearer about who you are, what you offer, the value, and then people vote with their feet. I'm just going to say it. People vote with their feet. And so when you go on a podcast and you really land the message, what happens is whatever you're offering, maybe it's a freebie. For me, it's my quiz, my archetype quiz. I can see all the views of the quiz and all the new people coming in. People are voting with their feet. I said something that really resonated with them. They're like, I'm going to go find out more. And I really want you to focus on that. If you said that you wanted more visibility, if 2022 was the year that you said, I want to get myself out there, I want to get on more platforms, I want to partner with people, I want to get in front of a whole new audience of prospects, getting interviewed on podcasts is the quickest way to do that. And so Debbie's like, we didn't have this scripted. I'm like, what do you want me to, what are we doing? And she's like, I don't know. We're just going to go with it. which makes me nervous because I'm with like the podcast queen. I'm like, oh my God. But literally, people, Debbie has crafted this 5 days of value. I'm going to put it below. I don't want to hear you say, I do not want to hear you say you can't afford $19. That's ridiculous. Yes, you can. Moreover, if you've said, I want to get interviewed, I want to speak to sell, I want to put my message out there, I want to make an impact, here it is. Here's your opportunity to be with a leading industry expert in the field of podcasts, to get her eyeballs on what you're doing, to get her, her take on it, to get the templates, to get this, the skill set and the structure to get yourself out there. It's honest to God, it's never going to get easier than this. And I'm bringing this to you across all my social media platforms because I think that Debbie is the one. She is the go-to source. If you want to be interviewed on podcast, she's going to help you get it together so that it's easy and effortless. And it's a 3 out of 10. The 5 days that you're going to spend with her, it's like you're getting it together. That's your 3. And then it's just taking action and getting it out in the world. So I hope that that's accurate, Debbie. Am I accurate in what I'm saying? They're going to come, they're going to sit with you. You've got the structure.
Yeah. Yes. They will be live with me. I will be teaching every day for 30 to
Amazing.
45 minutes, which is so simple. Also, Siddiqui coached me and said, you've got to have a workbook. I'm being really transparent. I'm not a workbook person, but I must say that was so much fun as it turned out to put together, because as I teach, people are going to have a way to write all the answers in and have it in one place, and also have some of the information duplicated so it's super clear. I'm excited about that. So they'll be with me, they'll get replays, they'll have the workbook. It's 5 days, and the 6th day is going to be a masterclass where I put it all together. I already have people who've signed up, and I can't wait to get my paws on people, because I'm the recipient of all the wrong ways to do things, like writing to somebody on social media. God bless if people love that. If they're into podcasts, I would imagine usually that's a pretty new podcast. But for those of us who've been doing it, have a little mileage under our belt, it's never going to happen. It just shows that it's an amateur, and it's not done correctly. You're not even providing the right info. You're just saying, I did this, I wrote this book, I'm awesome, you should have me on. And it's kind of like, no, not really.
No.
Yeah. So that's not the person for me. So I want somebody who can really behave like an amazing guest. So let me help you become an amazing guest. And I want to also, that point about podcast host versus podcast interview guest, just one more point about that. And by the way, if it's really in your wheelhouse, you feel called, go do it and be awesome, right? Understand the number game. If you got 10,000 people, some shows are more with their audience, but a highly engaged 10,000 people, compared to you putting out a brand new podcast when there's 2 million out there going on right now, and you're the new kid on the block, it's going to take a minute, like a year or so, for you to start to build that listenership. It's
a lot of heavy lifting.
Have to hire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, or you go to someone's already built platform that's rocking, right?
Yeah.
And you deliver a great show. Done.
Come on, let's be smart about this. Can you imagine? I would love to have a podcast interview every single week for the next 6 months. Do the math on that. What is that? 36 podcast interviews. Can you imagine the audience? But let's get smart about it. Let's not just do interviews for the sake of, thinking that we're so great and we have a message. Let's really give value and invite them into the next piece that we have to give for them. And honestly, I think, Debbie, what you're doing is very kind and very generous. $19 is, I think I'm giving you $19 because I'm going to show up and I really want this, but the real time and energy investment is in that 45 minutes a day. So in 45 minutes a day, you're live with Debbie. It's not pre-recorded. You're not just watching it. You get to ask questions. You get to get feedback. You get to listen to her deliver this amazing content. And believe me, Debbie and I have been friends for a long time. And I was in one of her book writing courses, and I was like, who is her? Who is this? Like, she off as all casual, but when she digs into the content, I can't wait to see the workbook. It is juicy. It is like top level expertise. And I wouldn't go to anyone else. I really wouldn't if I wanted to get on podcasts. So I'm signing up. I'm going to be there. And for those of you that can't see the chat right now, let me just tell you how you can come join me. And I think I did this 3 years ago. So it's time to tune up my podcast, my podcast interview packet and get myself back out there in a new way. So I'm committing to doing it. It's www.debbieBBID.net/challenge. So I will put that in the comment section, but it's Debbie, DID as in dog, .net/challenge. Super easy. DebbieD.net/challenge to join us next week. What time is it at, by the way?
Yeah, it's at 9 a.m. Pacific time. See, now we're going into math, not my expertise. So if it's 9 a.m. Pacific time, it's 12 p.m. Eastern time. You want to know something hilarious? I had a gal sign up and she wrote to me. I hope she hears this. And she's adorable and she's an entertainer. And she's like, I'm a singer. And I've been following you for a year, listening to your podcast for a year. I'm literally doing this for you because 12 o'clock is really early. I'm like, girl, noon is early. Okay. I'll be 9 a.m. over here. So, I feel you. But
well, it's going to be, I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's 4 a.m. for me. So if I can't join live, it's 4 a.m. over here in Auckland. So if I can't join live, I can listen to the recordings and do the homework. And is there a Facebook group or somewhere where I can homework for feedback?
Yes, we have a private Facebook group, 5-day podcast interview challenge. The folks who have registered already are there. We have another gal from Australia, so you won't be alone. And oh gosh, on Saturday for the masterclass, I'm doing it 10 Pacific. So that means it'd be 5 a.m. for you. So
5 a.m. I can be there.
Bring your Java Joe, girl. I'm impressed, but I'd love to have you. And I love that we're going to have a variety of amazing beings in that course. And I'm just the most exciting thing for me, besides working with people, which I treasure, is the after, when I get to sit back and see what you do with it. I had a beautiful student. I love this woman so much, Renee, a very, very spiritual gal, very gifted. And she is like most of the very gifted spiritual people who say, how do I bridge mainstream, which I love. So, we worked on that and got everything down for her so she could be her gifts and all, but still be able to do both spiritual shows and mainstream. And God bless, she booked herself on a TV show back in New York. Wow. And she sent me the clip because I love, to watch what everybody's doing. And what a great job she did. She went from somebody who was so concerned that it came out in ahs and ums and a lot of, thinking and silence. But it was not even what she's like in real life because she actually talks very fast. It's how her being processes. And we got her to be completely aligned with herself. She rocked it on this TV show. She was so good. So she's out there thriving and she was able to take this skill to other media. So what we want for you.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I love about you, Debbie, is you're so committed to really being of service, helping other entrepreneurs, other people with a message, get it out in the world. So folks, I'm putting it in the chat. I'm putting it in the comment section. whatever platform you're watching it on. Debbie is with me on most of these platforms. If you have any questions for her specifically, please reach out to her. Please write it in the comments. I will make sure that she gets it. But I think that we've gone over basically everything. Is there any last words of wisdom that you want to impart on us?
If you feel the call, I would say jump. 5
Mhm.
days, right? What is that to commit to? And what could it produce for you? Like, what is possible here? So if you feel it and you know that you could have a voice, the bottom line is, something nobody else knows. There was another gal I worked with, and her expertise was money. And that's a big field, right? You might have a
Yeah.
feeling like, well, I
Yeah.
talk about money, so do, 2 billion other people. How do I stand out? But we actually did private sessions, she and I, and she was so blocked around this. And one day we got on our private Zoom and she was just sharing a story with me. How you doing? How's it going? How's, everything we've been working on? She started sharing a story about herself personally and her history with money. And it was like, hold the phone. Oh my God. She literally laid out how she stands out from, she didn't even know she was doing it. This is how I stand out from everybody else. And this is the service I provide. And this is what I know about money because of my personal experience that nobody else knows. And it was like, bam, big light bulb moment, changed her life. So, this is the stuff you want to get for you too. You have a message, there's something you know that nobody else knows in your field because of your experience and because of what you teach. And it's time. Like, if you're here, we need that message. You came here to deliver that message. If you feel the call, register. And I can't wait. I really can't wait to work with everybody who's already in the soup and everybody else who's joining us. So it's going to be awesome. 5-day challenge.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for taking a stand for those of us that do want podcast interviews and giving us the support, the structure, the templates, the time to like really dive into this and nail it. And again, it's Debbie, DEBBID.net/challenge for those of you that are listening. And Debbie, thank you so much. I love you. And by the way, girl, your hair looks fierce today.
Thank you so much. Anything for you. Love you too.